With the holidays behind you, perhaps it was the all-inclusive deal or the daily happy hour, or maybe simply the relief of letting your hair down around food and drink. But when you got back from your vacation, the number on the scales was a bit of a downer. And what's more depressing is the idea of starting on a new diet as the seasons move on into autumn. I'm a psychologist and I'm going to show you how to get back on track with achieving a weight that you're comfortable with and being able to stay there. What do you need to be able to do this? For me, there are 4 things. The first is the headspace for making changes, having enough mental bandwidth to apply yourself right now. The second is having some autonomy around food. So being able to choose what you eat, when you eat, and how much you eat. The third is having the time and perhaps the finances to invest in what you're doing. The approach you take will determine both of these. So you just want to take these things into account when you're working out the way ahead. And fourth, enough energy to bring about change. Making changes does involve some energy. So if you're at a real low in terms of energy right now and you're very depleted, it might be better to conserve your energy and just get through this difficult time. If you don't have these things right now, the headspace, the autonomy around food, any investment that you need to make in terms of time and money, and the energy that you'll need, then I'd suggest you just stop and work out whether or not you could get these things together right now. If not, postpone weight loss until you can, because if you don't have these things, then any moves that you make are likely to be rather short-term. And short-term weight loss, as you'll know, can be very dispiriting, because if it's something that you can't sustain, the weight loss won't be sustained either. But if you are ready, then keep watching. There are 2 important steps to making changes in how you eat. The first is preparation, and the second is the process of change, actually doing it. It can be tempting just to launch into getting on with it, but actually it can really benefit you to spend a small amount of time in preparation so you get clear what that process is going to be. When we're talking about preparing to change, here's what that means. First, get really clear about your goals and how they're going to benefit you. One way of doing this is to use the best benefits exercise that I describe in my book, How to Retrain Your Appetite. In the book, I go through 3 really short and simple visualization exercises to help you get clear why you're doing this. Is it about looking good? Is it about feeling fit and healthy? Or is it about gaining confidence? This best benefits exercise is just a really simple way of engaging with that. And getting clear about this really comes into its own at moments of making change when things seem to get hard. At points where you're struggling with making changes, connecting with your why you're doing this can help to keep you on track. Next, you need to find an approach that's going to be practicable within your lifestyle and is going to play to your strengths. Different approaches work for different people. Do you want a ready-made eating plan? Do you want to use time-restricted eating? Or go on a keto diet because you know that will really suit your food preferences? Do you want the focus to be group support and accountability? Or do you want something that's going to address the psychology of your overeating? If it's help with the psychology of eating and weight loss that you are looking for, then hit the link in the description below to see how I might be able to help you with this. And the third thing to do is to be straight with yourself. Changing something as fundamental as how you eat is challenging. Just check in with yourself and ask, is the pain of me staying the same right now greater than the pain of me changing? If it is, and you're ready to change right now, then great. Let's go. Let's think about the process of weight loss. It's going to be a project. Whether you're a spreadsheet sort of person or somebody who much prefers to go with the flow, working on changing how you eat is going to take mental energy, effort and focus. Some approaches will take more than others. Very low calorie diets are seriously stressful and demanding. So I'd advise you to think carefully before you embark on something as demanding as that. And be realistic about the timescales involved. It's going to take weeks or months to establish a new way of eating. I say new way of eating because that's exactly what you need to establish if you want the weight to stay off. If you go on a diet and then you come off the diet and return to old ways of eating, you'll return to your old weight too. So at the point of deciding which approach you're going to take, do yourself a favour and choose an approach that you're going to be able to stick to for life. So be very wary of any approach that will take all your joy out of eating or will leave you feeling deprived. And this project of weight loss is going to demand some attention, probably every day, until you reach your goal. But it's likely that the amount of attention and effort will be decreasing over time as things become more established as patterns and habits. In the process of weight loss, there will be setbacks and times when you go off track. Don't pretend to yourself that those won't happen, because they almost certainly will. Anticipate these, accept these setbacks or deviations from what you intended, and get straight back on track straight away. These wobbles are just a part of overall weight loss. In relation to setbacks, it's really helpful to avoid very rigid rules. We know that a hazard, when you create very rigid rules for how you eat and then you break a rule, you're much more likely to get into a what the hell mentality and abandon your efforts completely. It's much more helpful to go for guidelines that are more flexible, that recognise some days will be easier than others, and that slipping up is not a problem, it's just part of the process. Research shows that one of the keys to successful weight loss is monitoring your progress. It's best to decide what sort of monitoring will actually work for you and will support what you're doing. Do you want to weigh yourself along the way? And if so, how often? If you know from experience that weighing is actually counterproductive, then you don't need to do it at all. Instead, you might sort of keep track of how your clothes are feeling, or you might notice and keep track of how you're feeling generally in terms of energy and well-being. Or you might want to give yourself a sort of star chart to monitor how many times you stuck to your intentions. A star chart can be as simple as a blank piece of paper where every time you do the thing you intended, you add a little star. You can make this more organised by putting it as a weekly calendar and maybe buying some sticky stars to stick onto it if that floats your boat. It doesn't matter how you monitor your progress, it's just this sense of keeping some sort of tally or tab on how you're getting on. And it's important that you use the monitoring information just as a guide to, do I need to make any adjustments to what I'm doing? So if you're keeping track of your weight and it's staying steady rather than falling, then that's food for thought about, do I need to adjust something else? Do I need to make an additional adjustment to what I'm doing in order to be able to enable some weight loss? And the next part of the process is to celebrate every win. As you're going through a process which is actually quite challenging, every time you achieve what you intended, every time you carry out an intention, give yourself some sort of celebratory action. It could be high-fiving yourself, it could be some sort of fist pump. A small movement like this gives you a bit of a burst of neurochemicals, which helps with your sustained motivation. Finally, the other thing I'd like to say about this process of weight loss is to be prepared to discover things about yourself along the way, positive things that maybe you haven't given yourself enough credit for before. When I'm working with people, I often find myself saying to them, well done, as they achieve something they intended. But what I hear myself saying much more often than that is, that's lovely, because as people make changes and they notice what's happening as they do, they enjoy food more than ever, they feel more relaxed around food, and they feel more in control around eating in a comfortable way. So weight loss isn't just about the number on the scales, and it's certainly not the only thing that you should be gauging your progress with. Something that's really important to add is that if you're living with obesity, which is a metabolic disease, you should seek out expert information on what sort of approach would be appropriate for you and whether that should include medical or surgical input. If you're ready to prioritise weight loss and you're looking for an approach that helps you lose weight and change your mindset around eating, hit the link in the description below to apply for a free eating pattern analysis call with me, where we'll analyse your particular situation and make a tailored plan for you. My next video is on the science of lasting weight loss.